Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now this interesting looking thing is a piece of Holm Oak. You've seen me turn it a couple of times before on the channel, and now we've got a slightly bigger piece than normal to try and do something with. Now obviously this shape is leaning towards a vase, and I'm not going to disappoint you, that's exactly what we're going to try and do. But we do have one issue to deal with, which is this huge amount of rot in the top. Now the reason this is going to give us a problem is because normally with a vase or something like that, you would hold it between centers so you can turn a tenon and then start working on the piece safely. But the center of this, if you follow a line up the middle here, is probably right on that edge. So my tailstock isn't going to sit on there. So what I'm going to have to do is put a piece of wood over the top so I can get it on the lathe, hold it safely while we get started. Now I have prepared for this, and what I've got is a small piece of beech. You may remember this from the shellac video we did, and I've put some double-sided tape on the back. Oh, I hate these things. Got it. Nearly. Right, now this I can sit across the top, and that's going to give us a nice firm place to put our tailstock on. Now I could have glued that on, but this top isn't exactly perfectly flat and it may have come off easily, so using a slightly thicker padded double-sided tape will allow it to seat in more areas, and that won't come off. That'll hold it nice and steady. Okay, so what we're going to do now is have a play around with it and try and get it nicely mounted along the center of gravity. Okay, so we've got it positioned pretty much along the center lines. I've gone as much up this middle as I can, and again as much up this middle as I can as well. Now there is still a bit of imbalance, but that's all because this big lump of branch area coming out the side, and that's going to be one of the first areas we tackle when we start turning. Now I could have cut it off, I guess, but sometimes it's more fun to turn it away than to actually just cut it off quickly with a bandsaw. Now a lot of you often ask me where I learn my techniques, whether it's turning tricky pieces or getting wood to that perfect finish. Well, a lot of inspiration and guidance comes from the Woodworkers Guild of America, who are actually sponsoring today's video. If you're passionate about woodworking, whether you're just starting out or have been at it for years, the Woodworkers Guild of America is an incredible resource. They offer step-by-step video tutorials, expert advice, and detailed project ideas covering everything from wood turning and finishing to advanced joinery and shop setup. Personally, I've been diving into their wood turning and finishing tutorials recently, and they've helped me refine my techniques, especially when it comes to using different finishes, achieving that perfect surface. The expert-led videos break down each step so clearly, making it easy to follow along. One of the things I really like is that their library is constantly growing, so there's always something new to learn. Whether you're looking for beginner-friendly guides or more advanced projects, they've got something for everyone. Plus, you can connect with a whole community of like-minded woodworkers to share ideas and ask questions. And here's the best part. The Woodworkers Guild of America is offering an exclusive deal just for you. The first 1,000 new people to click on the link in the description or via the QR code on the screen will get a full year of premium membership for just $1.49. That's access to all their tutorials, live Q&A sessions, and exclusive content at an unbelievable price. The offer is valid for new members only. So if you want to take your woodworking to the next level, click on the link below and join the Woodworkers Guild of America. Right, we're all about setup. I'm going to quickly give this a bit more tightened down. I'll sharpen up and we'll get started. Okay, we're all locked off, we're nice and safe. Initially turning at 650 RPM. We will be able to pick up that speed as soon as we get rid of this weight off the side. Starting off with a 1/2 inch ball gouge, mask and face shield will be on. Okay, that's a pretty good start. We've got rid of that big lump on the side. Now, one thing I didn't quite expect was the amount of surface moisture in this wood. That's a lot more than I was expecting. So I may have to revise a few things as we're going along, because I don't want this to crack after finishing. If it turns into a twice-term project, then that's what it's going to have to be, but we'll see how we go along, see if we can cope with it. Right, I'm going to carry on getting this fully round and just start shaping these areas up here. When we've got that done, we'll create a tenon, get this into some jaws, and then figure out the next step. Okay, it's all going well so far. I am still slightly concerned about the moisture level, but we'll carry on despite that for the moment. Now I started taking down these wings. I will leave the majority of them, but I think they do need to come in a little bit so we can start hollowing out, but still create a nice shape on the side. Almost like a flower opening is what I'm thinking about. Now, as I mentioned, this is Holm Oak, and already you can see quite the remarkable grain pattern that this wood has. It really has kind of quite a natural figure to it, which I absolutely adore. It's certainly one of my favourite oaks, without question. Right, I'm going to go and sharpen up again and just do some more passes down here and start trying to create a narrower shape in this area. I know I should create a tenon, but I'm having fun at the moment with this, so I'm going to see how far I can take this curve down, create a neck about there, and then hopefully widen it towards the base. That's what I'm thinking so far anyway. Okay, right, that neck's looking nice. Still not taking it all the way around yet. We've still got that little bit of bark to go, but I'm liking the shape as it leads into these wings. Now I think I'd like to take it in a little bit higher to make these wings slightly more pronounced, which would mean making this thinner and then taking it out. So I think we'll have a quick go at that. Okay, I've just quickly sharpened up again and moved on to a curved tool rest. So hopefully I can keep the tip of my tool a lot closer to this edge as it's been turned to make the cuts slightly easier. Well, they were really quite difficult cuts. I had to switch over to left-handed for a second just to try and get into this place without getting this hand too close to a spinning object. So if you are in such a situation, then please be as careful as you can. Now, we still haven't got great cuts on this area, but I'm starting to like the shape. I think this still needs to come in a little bit narrower yet. How much more, I'm not quite sure, but certainly more than it is right now. Now we've got this hole coming through, so I have to watch out of how thick this net's getting. I mean, at the moment that's about ½ an inch, so there's a reasonable chance that we're going to meet this hole in a second as we're taking this down. But we'll find out soon, I'm sure. Okay, it's coming together. I think that neck width is just about there, so I'm fairly happy with that. I might do a bit of feathering here just to see if I can improve things slightly. Right, I'm going to create a tenon on this end, and then we'll get it nice and safely into some heavy-duty jaws. Okay, nice and safely in the big strong jaws now. So before I continue, I just want to try and get an idea of where the foot of this vase is going to be. And I reckon around there, just so I can start defining it now, so it'll help me visualize the balance of this thing as we progress. Okay, now as soon as we've done that, I'm starting to look at this bark, and I actually like it. I haven't done a vase before where I've left the bark on in that amount, and it's not horrible at all, is it? It's really quite nice, it's quite pretty. So we are going to lose some of it, but I think I'll try and work that into the design as well. What it'll probably mean is that when I'm hollowing this out, I'll try and leave a bit of the bark in this area, just so it all ties in together. Yeah, I think that's a good plan. Okay, that's really looking nice. We've got a nice defined foot now, and a reasonable shape around here. Needs a little bit more refinement, but not an awful lot. And then we've just got to get this right around the neck. Now I apologise about the wind noise outside. I don't know if you can pick it up on my microphone, but it's really turning quite nasty outside. I'm glad I'm in here. Right, what next? Right, I think I'm going to continue just to try and refine this shape over here. Still not quite perfect. And then we'll do the hard bit. We'll start trying to get this right, get these cuts right, because at the moment they're not great. Okay, that's got that looking nice. I'm pretty happy. So I'm just going to switch over to my curved tool rest again and just start working around here, get this neck right. I'm going to start off with a scraper, see how that does me. If not, then I'll continue with the ball gouge. That was quite scary. It's done better. I may be able to do slightly better by hand, so I'll carry on with the ball gouge. Ugh. Well, I certainly found the limits of my ability on that cut. That was terrible. That first one, when I got the catch, was just horrible. Oh look, we've got a hole. That's the rot coming in from the outside. It's just poked its way through. That's fine. It's all part of the natural piece, so we can expect that. Right, I'm going to continue on trying to get this curve right, trying to get rid of all these tool marks. I think I almost got something right then. That's good. Right. What's next? Still a bit of cleaning up to do, but I think most of that can be got with sanding, especially this little area here. Now, what I'm going to do now, I think, is set up with the steady rest to give us some nice stability so we can take the tailstock away and start hollowing out. Okay, well now we're just about ready to start hollowing out. Now I'm using a steady rest. This one was made for me by a gentleman called Tim Mason, and it was specifically designed for this size of lathe. I've just actually got this back off him because he's upgraded it for me with all aluminium thumb screws, which he's made and nulled himself, which are absolutely beautiful. So let's get this off. Oh blimey. There we go. Okay, I'm going to start hollowing this out nice and slowly, working from the middle in. Now, at some point we are going to go in with a Forstner bit, but I want to wait until I've got a nice flat opening at the base before I put anything down there. At the moment, if I put a Forstner bit on, this uneven opening would just kick it all over the place and we wouldn't get a clean cut. So let's try and clear out a bit of area first so we can get one in. Right, that's quite hard going, but we are working into end grain, as it were. Right, I'm going to go and sharpen up again, and then we'll continue. This could take a little while. Right, that's really hard going, so I'm going to have a go with a Forstner bit and see if we've got enough room here to make a path in. Okay, that took some doing. Now what we've got to do now is feather in this edge so we can meet the hollowed out area in a nice smooth way. We've also got to try and clear some of this rot as well, if possible. I don't think we'll get it all, but we will get most of it. Okay, I did a lot of that work there with the small Hope hollowing tool, which did a brilliant job. I don't think we're going to clear all this rot. If we do, we'll end up going all the way through the wood, which we may be able to clean up, may look quite nice. Anyway, I'm going to start thinning down these wings a little bit, almost to paper thin at the edge. Get this curve right, and then I can worry about the meeting between the hollowed area and the neck. Oh. Scared me a little bit. There's a very interesting bit of bark inclusion there which just caught on that tip and made me jump a little bit. Right, we haven't quite touched that wing yet, so I'm still going to do that. But I'm liking that curve. I've got to thin it out in that little bit there, but we're doing all right. Okay, now I really like that That's nice and thin on there. I love it. Right, now what I'll do now is just feather this curve into the hollowing, and then that's about done. I haven't quite touched the top of this wing, but I'm going to do that with sanding, because this is really quite delicate around here, and the more I do to this, the more it's going to affect that, and I quite like that. So this bit here. Okay, right. I am absolutely over the moon with the way this has gone. Now, the next step is for sanding, but because this wood is very wet, I don't want to sand it quite yet. I'm going to leave it on the lathe for 2 or 3 days for any surface moisture to leave, so I can then sand it and put a finish on, or oil it. I think it's going to have to be oiled. So right, I'll bring you back when we've started sanding. Okay, it's been a couple of days since we finished turning, and the surface should be dry enough now for us to be able to sand. Now, the only movement really I can see in the wood is around this area where we had the bark inclusion. That's, as you can see, it was quite thin anyway, but there's a reasonable amount of movement on there, so I'm going to have to take a lot of care when I'm sanding those areas. Right, so I'm going to take away the steady rest now. We don't need it anymore. If you are interested, or if you need a steady rest, then the details for Tim Mason, his email address, the gentleman who made this one for me, is always available in the description below. Okay, right, I'm going to set up for sanding. I'll let you watch a bit of it, and I'll bring you back when it's done. Well, we're done. We've managed to sand it. It did take a while, about an hour and a half in the end, but there were so many areas that had to be done with the piece locked off, as opposed to being able to sand with it spinning. But it feels beautiful. It's not perfect, but I think I could carry on sanding for another 5 or 6 hours and it'd still not be perfect, but I do love it. Right, I'm going to give it a wipe over with isopropyl alcohol, just to clean out any of the rubbish in the grains. Oh, it's such a beautiful wood. I'm so pleased we made the decision to leave the bark on, because that makes it look really quite an individual and rustic piece. Right, somebody asked me the other day, why do you wipe off with isopropyl? You know, it doesn't seem to pick up anything. But if you look at that cloth, then that makes you realise that it does take out a lot which could be left in there. Also very pleased to lift the grain on these edges as well. That really looks nice. Right, I'm going to let this dry, and then I am going to give it a sealing coat of shellac, because I really want to seal the bark so you don't get any build-ups of dust and stuff like that in there. Okay, that's had enough time to dry, so I'll go on with a nice healthy coating of a blonde shellac. Make sure that all the bark is well saturated. Now, being a blonde shellac, it won't darken the wood too much, which you would get with normal shellac. It's really looking so nice. So I'm kind of stunned into silence. Okay, right, we'll let this dry and we'll come back with, I think, a beeswax and mineral oil finish. Okay, that's all nice and dry, so we're going to go on with a beeswax and mineral oil finish. This is predominantly mineral oil with some beeswax in it. It's about 6:1, 7:1 ratio. And it's a nice light loose mix which is going to nourish the wood and still allow it to breathe. It's also going to help keep this beautiful light colour, not yellow it too much. Okay, I'm going to give this 20 minutes or so to let it soak in, and I shall buff it up. And I'll part it off, and then when that's all done, I'll bring you back. We shall take a look at what we've done. Well, there we go. A live edge, rustic Holm Oak vase. And I must admit, I really enjoyed this one. It was tricky. The cuts in this orientation around this angle here, I did have great difficulty with. If it had been in that orientation, I'm sure I'd have coped an awful lot better, but like an idiot I am, I decided to cut it in that orientation. But there we go, you live and learn. And overall, I am pretty happy with it. Now, the next thing for this is, because there is still, I would imagine, a fairly substantial amount of moisture in it, I'm going to keep it in a cool, either here in the workshop or in one of the sheds, and I'll let it sit there for another few months, just so the water in there will evaporate slowly. And it may crack, it may not, but only time will tell. I'll let you know. I'll give you updates over the coming months of what happens to it. But all in all, I'm pretty happy. I love the way that this is starting to separate and change direction. That's one of the great things about using green wood or wood that isn't fully seasoned. When you do turn it thin like this, it will move and create some wonderful shapes. Even the rot area inside here is polished up very nicely indeed, and I really like the way that looks. Even the hole, I love the hole. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this one, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe and all the usual things, and if you could share the video as well, then that would be absolutely amazing. Don't forget that if you leave a comment, you are going to be entered into the next giveaway, and I think we're going to have 2 giveaway points next month, because we are going to be hitting 50,000 subscribers very soon, and also the channel has its birthday, and we will be 3 years old on the 16th of March. But apart from that, thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.